Hey everybody, my name's Jesse Taylor, and I'm going to be kicking off the first portion of the Week 14 Gaming and Social Capital presentation. And forgive me because I am going to be looking off to my side here every now and again because I have my notes up on my TV while I have my laptop camera doing the actual presentation. So let's just go ahead and kick right off and get right into it. So let's start off with the definition of social capital. What is social capital? And the actual definition of social capital is the effective functioning of social groups through the interpersonal relationships, a shared sense of identity, a shared understanding, shared norms, shared values, trust, cooperation, and reciprocity. So, in layman's terms, what this means effectively is having a sense of belonging in a community, belonging to that community, and socially functioning in said community. Next, we're going to move on to something the article talks about, which is called gaming social capital. And gaming social capital is, to the extent, kind of sort of the same as real world face to face social capital, only it exists more in an online world in that virtual setting than it would in real life. There are ways that they can translate into one another, but we'll get into that later. But more the way that gaming social capital is created, for lack of a better term, is players normally meet in online games, whether that be massive multiplayer online games such as things like, say, World of Warcraft, or even playing smaller, smaller just first-person shooter games like Call of Duty or something along the lines of that. But normally, what happens is players would begin playing, whether it's with their friends from work or they're playing alone or something along the lines of that, and they meet other people online in said multiplayer games. And with playing these games with these people that they've never met before, eventually they do come to feel a sense for a need for involvement with these people while they're playing the games. Normally, you find that more in objective-based games where players have to come together to, you know, come to an objective and complete said objective. It's usually not as common in first-person shooters where you're just killing a bunch of random people. But that does normally lead to that sense of involvement, and it leads to a sense or a need for belonging in said group. And once the acceptance happens, the player is in that actual state of belonging with those other players. And that can even expand away from just games, but and go into things like online forums, like massive fandom forums for other games and things like that. And people will actually go in and start forums and start responding and just do this. I mean, it's crazy how big they can get. And it's like with previously mentioned World of Warcraft, excuse me, that game is I wouldn't really know how to explain how big it is because I've never actually played it, but I do know that tens of thousands of players could be online at any given time, and then at the same time, any number of those players could be in an online forum participating and creating an online community in said forum. And then next, we're going to go ahead and sort of compare gaming social capital to face-to-face social capital. And I'm going to be using abbreviations because those are both big mouthfuls. So for gaming social capital, I'm going to be abbreviating that to just GSC. And then for your face-to-face social capital, I'm going to be abbreviating that to FSC. It's easier to say and it just gets it out quicker and it eliminates tongue twisters. So as we said before, FSC is kind of belonging to a physical community and having that sense of belonging and all that kind of stuff. And then with gaming, you're belonging to, being involved in, and having that sense of belonging in a virtual community that has the potential to be a real community. However, there is sort of a disconnect between the two based on the study results of the article. I'll pull those results up here for you now. But as you can see, based on the survey questions, that you can see on your screen right now. People who more belong to the case of social capital tested more that they feel connected to other people in their community, but people more in the gaming social capital that are connected with many people online don't feel as though people in their community are connected to one another. And it's vice versa entirely with the people that are more involved in FSC than they are in GSC, as you can see near the bottom there. Um, Most people that are more involved in social capital don't have offline relationships with the people they game with that they don't know. And then gaming social capital means that higher percentage, they met those people online, and now they have offline relationships with those people due to the gaming that they've been through. And you can see all the other results in there as well that sort of disconnect the two. But there are ways that they can translate into one another, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about those now. So if you, excuse me, I had to adjust in my chair. If you meet up with your online friends in the community, and whether it's people you already know or not, at that point you are translating gaming social capital into real face-to-face social capital as you're being involved in your community doing whatever social event it is that you're doing, and you're doing activities in your community. And if you become a bigger part of the community by doing said activities, then you're just expanding on that social capital. And then a way that you could translate FSC into GSC would say be getting your friends that you don't game with, or your coworkers or anyone like that. You could get them involved in the game that you're doing, and then have the actual face-to-face social capital be translated into that gaming social capital, because at that point you do have that sense of belonging and you are belonging to a community with friends that you already have outside of the game, and now you're bringing that into the game. And then another way you could translate GSC into FSC is going to huge gaming events such as E3, which is a massive, absolutely massive gaming convention. I mean, it's comparable to, say, Dragon Con or things like that. And well, I shouldn't say it's comparable, because it's a much bigger event than Dragon Con would be in Atlanta. But there are going to be many sub communities in this massive event, and you can join and belong to and have a sense of belonging to near any one of them, depending on the games that you play. Or if you play all of the games, you could be involved in every community, but that honestly seems like it might be a little taxing. But there are other ways you can translate physical. Oh, I'm sorry. I just got a notification about an update on my computer. Gotta love HP. But back to this. So there are some physical games that you can play in person with your friends, such as trading card games or board games that have they've had an online version of themselves created, whether it's through tabletop or, say, I'm a big nerd and I play the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game, and I go on something that's called Dueling Nexus, and I duel my friends there. And through that, we do have to use we do have to use third-party voice chats such as Discord or things like that, which is another way you can translate into online social capital. But that's another topic for another time. And lastly, another thing that I'm involved in, a way you can translate physical or actual face-to-face social capital into gaming social capital, is games that have clubs made for them on university campuses. And that really can translate either way, whether it's gaming social capital into face-to-face or vice versa. It can really go either way. In my personal experience, it's been face-to-face social capital being moved into gaming social capital because, like I said, I play Yu-Gi-Oh! And on the Dahlonega campus, there's this little thing called the Trading Card Game Club, and there's a lot of things that we play, such as Yu-Gi-Oh, like I stated before, and something I don't play like Magic the Gathering. But all of these have online clients that you can use to play that would help translate from one to the other. And then even certain video games or just gaming in general has clubs on the campus. Whether it's just gaming in general or to specific video games, UNG has a club for it. And it can translate either way between the two based on what it is you might be doing. And then one thing I did want to talk about is the limits of gaming social capital. And it can be limited to the size of the group that one might play games with. For example, if you only play games with one other person or two other people, that's going to be limited to that small group you have, and it's not going to expand. And then it may not translate into real world activities because you may just, be a loner and play games inside all day and not actually go out and create real physical social capital with the people you play games with, whether you know them or not. Usually, that situation, you don't know these people and you just game with them, and it's normally found in more antisocial people. And then it also may or may not be created at all, depending on the type of games that you play. For example, if you play solo all the time, then that's not going to, you're not going to meet new people and you're not going to have a community to belong to. And some people also don't have any online access, so they're limited to not even being able to create it at all because they don't have access to online. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about some real dangers in social capital. Danger number one, first and foremost, that it has been a thing, and I apologize for if this is insensitive or is lacking or anything thereof, and I apologize to those if that I offend if I do offend any. But the first and foremost biggest danger of gaming social capital is sexual predators. Yes, there have been people who have used video games to gain people's trust online and then attempt to meet them in real life. And then once they meet these people, well, I won't get into exactly what happens, but that is one of the biggest dangers of gaming social capital. You want to be very careful with people online that you meet. The second thing that I wanted to talk about in the dangers of gaming social capital is scammers. Scammers can be a big part of massive multiplayer online games. And like with the aforementioned World of Warcraft, this is definitely a thing that happens because people do spend money on these games, and scammers do target people that spend money and tell them, hey, I may have this item or X, whatever it may be in the game. And if you give me X amount of money, I'll give you X desirable item. And then the scammy will pay the scammer, and then of course the scammer hightails it out of the game, and that kind of thing does happen a lot as well. And then the third danger that's not as common, but it does happen to victims, unfortunately, is identity theft. Some people will gain people's friendship and trust online to a point where they say, hey, I want to buy this game for you. Give me your account information so I can, log on as you and buy this game for you. And if they've gained this person's trust enough and they give that the identity thief their information, the identity thief goes into their profile, looks at whatever payment information they have with the client, and then they will steal their identity through that. And then, like I said, that doesn't happen as often, but it definitely is a danger. And then the last but not least danger of gaming social capital is hackers. And I don't mean that in the sense of, say, you're playing a game and someone is cheating through hacking. I mean that as hackers that hack your account on whatever client you're using, whether it's Xbox, like Sony, PlayStation, or PC, hackers can hack your account and implement a virus into your system or steal your identity. And they can do that through either the game's software itself, or they can do it through the download client. Say if you're using Steam or Battle.net or something along the lines of that, a hacker can get your information through that. Well, alrighty, everyone. That was part 1 of this presentation. I will leave you to Drake for part 2 now. But I hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night. Bye-bye.